The new Xiu Xiu album is called 13-inch Frank Beltrame Italian Stiletto with Bison Horn Grips. What an unsettling album title. A detailed description of a specific switchblade. Your mind immediately goes to, what is this switchblade going to be used for? You know, like a Chekhov's gun sort of thing. Or was it used by some fucked up person to torture someone, maim someone, maybe even kill someone? Because that's where your mind goes to when you think about Xiu Xiu. It's all of this dark, depressing shit about suicide and hatred and toxic and abusive relationships. And then I read the interview that Xiu Xiu did with The Quietus, where Jamie said that they gave this album this title after the favorite switchblade in their collection, because they collect switchblades. It's just a hobby of theirs. Which is funny and disarming. And I think that's kind of a microcosm of what listening to Xiu Xiu is like. Because, you know, going back to like A Promise with Sad Pony Gorilla Girl, there are all these, you know, very, very disquieting lyrics that sound like they're about sort of an abusive relationship, and you know, there's threatening tones, and it conjures something really, really dark, and it makes you wonder what's going on behind the curtain in this narrative. And if you listen to the drunk commentary that Jamie Stewart did on A Promise, they say that almost all of those lyrics are directly taken from things that he heard the lesbians who lived in the apartment above him saying to each other. So you have all of this insane, like, volatile imagery and a tone of just of dark and depressing shit, but it all just happens to be a reflection, or perhaps a refraction, of Jamie Stewart's life. And when you realize that, it's a little less scary, because it's just some person, right? It's just some person writing about their own experiences. And that's this album that they put out this past Friday, 13-inch Frank Beltrame, is really fantastic. And it's an album that is definitely probably one of their most approachable that they've ever put together. I think if you're new to Xiu Xiu, coming into this album is a very good inroad to get into their style. And Jamie Stewart is just one of the most versatile singers and songwriters in all of indie music. Somehow their falsetto warble thing, where they always sound like they're on the verge of tears, or, you know, when they're doing their more chesty, you know, throaty voice, it's always just like at a maximum level of intensity, like just like they're on the verge of a mental breakdown, or currently in a mental breakdown at some in some points of some songs. And somehow it just works over so many different styles of music. They, you know, early on they were making a lot of, you know, art pop and different kind of styles of indie rock music. You know, their mid-career, there were a lot more synthesizers. Early on, it was a lot of organic instruments, you know, guitars and drums and like toy keyboards. It was very, very DIY. And in the later part of their career, it gets a little bit more, I guess, professional sounding. Like, you know, Jamie and Angela are really figuring out how to produce music like professionals, but it doesn't lose any of the sort of ramshackle energy that gives Xiu Xiu music its character. Right, because like I think things probably changed around the Twin Peaks record, which sounded amazing, probably like the best production on any Xiu Xiu best as in like most professional sounding on any Xiu Xiu record up to that point. And then, they made a pop record with Forget, and then a completely bonkers post-industrial album with Girl with Basket of Fruit. And I don't know. Now that I think about it, now that I am looking at the list of their discography, they've kind of been with their mainline albums been teeter-tottering back and forth between more harsh and experimental sounds and more accessible sounds. I don't know that that's really intentional. It's more likely just a reflection of where Jamie and Angela are at as people. And that's the thing, you listen to their music and it sounds like you're listening to the work of inscrutable geniuses. And it's like, how do they come up with this stuff? What's going on in their head? And like this new album, 13-inch Frank Beltrame, pulls upon a lot of styles that, we're not used to hearing from Xiu Xiu. I think maybe the strongest reference point is Flaming Lips. I hear a lot of the flips on this album, and especially like Embryonic, like they're more kind of experimental and oblong records. And they also, in the Quietest interview, like the interviewer asked basically, why did you choose to make a psych rock album? And Jamie was just like, our drummer wanted to make a psych rock album. That's David Kendrick, by the way. I saw Xiu Xiu live last year, by the way, and it was fucking amazing. This was coming off of Ignore Grief, and they played a lot of those songs and a lot just around their discography, as bands do nowadays, whatever is getting the most streams. And they came out wearing these shirts that said, Xiu Xiu is numero uno. And Jamie quipped something like, my therapist said I should work on some positive self-affirmations. So here we are. I said it before, I'll say it again. 13-inch Frank Beltrame is a fucking phenomenal Xiu Xiu album, a great addition to their discography, and a great inroad if you're new to their music. I'll go through the highlights, but I'm probably just going to end up talking about most of the entire album. So Arp Omni is the opener. It's got these ambient strings that as the track progresses, layer on top of each other, and there are some sort of psychedelic phaser effects going on. And Jamie is doing their like deep, throaty chest voice thing. And they're singing about seemingly like a young girl who is something terrible has happened to her. And the song seems to be wrestling with how the narrator could possibly forgive the person who has done this thing to her. There's a line, with black hair as infinite as yours, what could dare to bar your passage through the void? Which is really dark and evocative, and I don't really know how to interpret that. It seems like, I don't know, it feels like if someone asked Jamie what the song is about, there would probably be a very simple explanation that had to do with some anecdote from his personal life. But as of now, it sounds like a song about child torture. So that's just where I'm coming from. And in the chorus, they say, I have done almost nothing right my entire adult life, but having dared to touch the fire with you breaks the chain of my being nothing too. Which is just fucking, it destroys me. I've done almost nothing right my entire adult life, but having dared to touch the fire with you breaks the chain of my being nothing too. So it's like, I'm sorry. What else is there to fucking say? I'm getting emotional just reading these lyrics out loud. It's like you can like somehow. I think if I can sum up the themes of this album, 13-inch Frank Beltrame, in a single word, it's forgiveness. This is an album about forgiveness, and I think that this song is saying, if I can somehow find a way to forgive myself for all of the mistakes I've made and for all of the wasted time, then I can truly be something, right? I can approach a life, right? It's just a beautiful, beautiful song, beautiful sentiment, and just a killer emotional way to open up this record. And then it goes into Maestro One Chord, which is like the first rocker rather than a ballad. And it's got this like trip hop beat and like these fuzz and filters and vibrato. This is where it's like, okay, this is a psych rock band now. We're listening to psych rock Xiu Xiu. And they're like, the percussion on this album is fucking phenomenal. Again, I'll say David Kendrick, the drummer, is the one who wanted to do a psych rock album, and you can feel it. Like the drumming, the percussion presence on this album really meets the moment. And there are these banging toms on this song that at first I thought they were timpani, but no, they're just toms, and it's just such a cool sound. And the lyrics, I don't know what to do with this, but it's like, it starts with half a brick flying through space, a broken tooth flying through space, curious and unafraid. And then in the verse 2, it's a shudder of discovery floating in space. So it goes from concrete things flying around to abstract things flying around. A compulsion suitcase of failure, a dunce cat, a moment of reprieve in a day's dream, a slap on the ass, flashing the morass. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this song. Next one, Common Loon. This was the first single, and it's honestly probably my least favorite. This is just the most like straight up conventional psych rock song on the album. Jamie's in their breathy voice and really far back in the mix, so it doesn't really pop as much vocally as the rest of the tracks. But the lyrics are really cool. Xiu Xiu has a real knack for coming up with insane lyrics that sound hilarious out of context, but sound really emotional and evocative in the context of the song. They are a freak and cool. It's time to creep out, get low, dandy. So yeah, that song is great. Pale Flower is a pretty cool experiment. It's a much more synth driven song. The reference point for this one feels like Ulver, like Blood Inside era Ulver. It's the drums kind of like are doing fills up until the chorus where the percussion comes in full time, and there's this really distinctive like vibrato affected synthesizer. When I love the lyric, you could wipe the excrement of a rainbow off into a rag. You could wipe the excrement of a rainbow off onto a loved one's thighs. And another potential reference point. I mean, the only other artist that I hear write about, I almost said queer love, but really it's gay sex. Like the only other artist that writes about gay sex like this is John Balance of Coil. Rest in peace. But yeah, just beautiful. Pale Flowers, crazy song, and there's all this, it just ramps up the tension, and the tension never resolves. The song just ends, and it's really sick. Next one is Beneficium. This is another single, and it's this song is amazing. It's again like a more conventional psych rock album. It's like a stoner rock song. This shit sounds like Elder. It's like, this feels like a very, like, we could make the Jimi Hendrix Experience. I don't know, that's a bad example, but we could make the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Jimi Hendrix couldn't make a Promise or whatever. Not that they're, Jimmy's, what, you get my point. Yeah, the guitar lick on the song is catchy as fuck. It opens up with this synced up guitar, bass, and drums. It's like it's the wankiest thing that Xiu Xiu has ever recorded. Like, it's proggy. They sound like a band, which is not like it usually sounds like Jamie Stewart kind of experimenting in their bedroom, or at least that's what I'm used to from their early material. But they sound like a whole ass rock band, which is crazy. Yeah, what's going on with the lyrics in this song? I forgot. Air above the massive space. Yeah, this is some beautiful poetry. I don't remember being like caught by any of these lyrics though. Sleep Boulevard was oh, the song is so sick, right? It starts with this like little single note progression on the guitar, and Jamie and like spotlit, really tense vibrato vocals, and then it just slams into this big ass dramatic chorus. The chorus sounds like Nine Inch Nails. It's got the really crushing drum machine and guitar chords and bass, and then it just drops back down into the tense verses, and they build slightly with organ and synthesizer woodwinds and whatever. It's just the shifts in energy in a song are just electric. This song also has the line, "Shush, shush, said I to the discotheques of discontent. Shush, shush, said I, they don't concern me anymore. Though it were the most reprehensible acts of my habituality, you responded to most enthusiastically." It feels like this is a song about, perhaps, I could be off base here, it kind of sounds like a song about getting sober. Like, the discotheques of discontent are the party lifestyle where you go and have fun, and while you're having fun, you do drugs. And that is often something that you engage with when you are with friends or a loved one who also does that sort of thing. And again, tying this back into the theme of forgiveness, this is a song about trying to take responsibility for yourself and not not blame someone else for what's the word I'm looking for? Enabling your drug abuse. I could be way off base here. That this is just my interpretation. The lyrics are very abstract. But yeah, Sleep Boulevard, probably my favorite on the whole album. But then it goes into TDFTW, which stands for The Devil Forgiven, That's Why, which is the climax, kind of centerpiece of the album. And this is where we get our sort of thesis statement based on my interpretation of the record, The Devil Forgiven, That's Why, which, let me just read you the whole first verse. In everyone's life, there is one person whose name can be called out at the moment of death. And for me, that name is yours. The devil forgiven, that's why. So, it's saying that there's one person, everyone has one person who defines their life. This is sort of the operative theory that Jamie Stewart's working with here. And for some people, that person is, I don't know, their spouse, right? Someone they're in love with, someone that defines their life, right? And Jamie's saying that this person is the devil for them, which is, I think, saying like someone who has put them through so much hell. And, you know, I'm not going to speculate, but if you've listened to enough Jamie Stewart interviews and whatnot, you can kind of put two and two together. But someone who's put them through so much torment and so much anguish that's come to define their life, how can they then forgive that person? You forgive them by acknowledging that it defines your life, right? You don't try to ignore it or try to skirt around it. You just accept the pain that they caused. I don't know if accept is the right word, but live in it, right? Yeah. And the song is really, really intense. It really ramps up. It's, and this is a very organic sounding song, not a lot of electronics and synthesizers and stuff. And I love Angela's vocal contribution on this song. It's, it really, really elevates it. And there's pick swiped guitars that really sound amazing, and some sound effects that come in the end that just pew, 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 and it feels like it's exploding. And yeah, that song is really fucking sick and really emotional. And then penultimate track is called Bobby Bland. This is another song about family and about just how difficult it can be to forgive family who's put you through torment. Their lyrics, your mother and father don't have to be a biological disaster. They could be kindred spirits and weirdly moving, which is, you know, that's really sad. Like that if you have never lived your life with parents who love each other, you might think about living with parents who love each other as like weirdly moving, like not warm and not nice, but there's something unsettling about that balance. I don't know. Meat without sense, meat without a mind, meat that takes, earned by the whims of a Grendel, confront the fiction and feather of obsessive obliteration. So I'm guessing Grendel there is spelled like L-E, but I'm guessing that's like Beowulf Grendel. Yeah, just like, I guess another way of saying the devil, right? Something that just has completely ruled your life. Yeah, threatened by someone who is already threatened, standing up to them all like a single polka dot. I'm sorry, most of this video is just me reading the lyrics and gawking at them, but my God, what poetry. And the closer, Pina, Coconut, and Cherry. It starts out by making fun of me personally for this video. It's Jamie going, a ballad rather than a rocker. A ballad rather than a rocker. Which is like, it does feel like it's mocking anyone who dare evaluate music. It's like, you know, when you're Jamie Stewart and when you're Xiu Xiu and when you're creating music that is so personal and so deeply connected to specific things from your life, categories like ballad and rocker kind of lose meaning, and it feels like a funny sort of poke at, you know, at the entire concept of making music. Like it's kind of a self-own to yeah. Side note, like again, like in the quietest interview, Jamie's just like, yeah, our drummer wanted to make a psych rock album. And in a past interview about A Promise, some like the interviewer was like, what made, I feel like you are pulling a lot from like gamelan music. And Jamie's just like, yeah, that's just because of the records I was listening to. Like, I've never been to Indonesia or anything. It's just music that I kind of like, because I have listened to records of it. So, that's what we're working with here. Jamie just creates what they want. And it's a really kind of inspiring creative process. And of course, this closer, Pina Coconut and Cherry, is the one where they go fantasy, 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 and just this is the sort of I love you, Jamie Stewart of the record, the climactic emotional breakdown that comes in every Xiu Xiu record. There's this like minimal synth part. Another point of reference for this album, I think there are a handful of like really minimal synth tracks, especially like the previous track Bobby Bland, that go into like electroacoustic breakdowns that really remind me of like some of the Residents' early experiments. Anyway, I'm bouncing all over the place. Just a mental breakdown outro. You must love me, love me, love me. What a fucking album. I don't even know. I don't have anything else to say. Listen to it. If you are a Xiu Xiu fan and you haven't heard the 13-inch Frank Beltrame, what are you doing? If you've never heard of Xiu Xiu a day in your life and like good rock and roll music, then this album is right there for you. You should listen to it now before it goes bad, okay? Super fucking inspiring work. Again and again, Jamie and Angela never fail to impress me and to move me and to get me thinking. Fucking, I don't know. I don't rate albums on these videos, but this is like a 9 to me. It's like it's a 9 out of 10 on my scale of never rating anything. So, cool.